over at Morning Joe on MSNBC, they're revealing Trump's team is deeply worried about something. Now, what could possibly strike fear into the hearts of this incoming heart-free administration? What wide-eyed force of nature is so unpredictable that even the most jaded and corrupt furrow their brow at the mere mention of its name? What incarnate of blind revenge and pure vindication is so formidable that it forced even Bill Barr to consider his own mortality? The answer to these and other unsettling questions, well, that's the business of today's MSNBC Morning Joe Roundtable video we have to share with you. Take it away, guys.
When Patel was installed as Chief of Staff to the Acting Secretary of Defense just after the 2020 election, Mark Milley, who, of course, was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, advised him to not break the law. Quote, "Life looks really shitty from behind bars," Milley reportedly told Patel. When Trump entertained naming Patel deputy director of the FBI, Attorney General Bill Barr, again, another Trump loyalist, confronted the White House chief of staff and said, quote, "Over my dead body." When in the final weeks of the administration, Trump planned to name Patel deputy director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, the head of the CIA, threatened to resign. Trump relented only after an intervention from Vice President Mike Pence. She goes on to ask, who is this man and why did so many top officials fear him? And we will go through it. It's certainly not because he's an expert in any of these fields. It's not even because he's an ideologue. It's because he seems, according to this piece and everything we've seen, singularly focused on exacting revenge on people who did not carry through on Donald Trump's threats of retribution. And again, we will be playing the clip in a minute where he promises to arrest journalists and reporters and news people who refused to go along with the 2020 Stop the Steal conspiracy theories. I mean, this is, again, we're going to be talking about Pete Hegseth in a second. Explosive reporting over the night from the New Yorker, from two whistleblowers, which I predict will probably at the end sink that nomination, along with a letter from his mother that was published this past weekend. But let's keep everything in perspective, and let's start with the man that was not selected yet because he'd have to fire Chris Wray first. Right. But the person that he floated out there to serve as FBI director, Kash Patel.
Well, let's start with the idea that he'd have to fire Chris Wray. Let's remember, he fired FBI Director James Comey, which almost brought his administration down in 2017, and Republicans in a fury. Now he talks about firing Chris Wray. Most in the GOP shrug, go along with it. This is the new normal in Donald Trump's Washington, they believe. And the man that Trump says he wants to put in Wray's stead, Kash Patel, perceived by many to be deeply dangerous because he has indeed, as you note, no qualifications for this job. Many of Trump's former aides said as much 4 years ago. But Patel, I'm told, and I'm talking to people in the orbit the last couple of days, there is no ideology. There's no agenda here other than retribution. Patel's one defining characteristic is that he is simply loyal to Donald Trump. And even inner circle Trump members of the last few years have been startled by Patel's willingness to simply do whatever Trump wants.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there, Jonathan. And we need to talk more about this. Kash Patel is not just controversial among media outlets or Democrats. He's not just controversial among Republican senators. He is controversial inside Trump's own orbit. I mean, you go inside Trump's own orbit, and it is split down the middle with half the people thinking he's going to be a disaster for any Donald Trump administration. And they never wanted this nomination to see the light of day because, again, that divide goes straight through MAGA world as well for those around Donald Trump.
Yeah, people I've talked to say this pick was a nod to the extreme right-wing portions of Trump base, the Steve Bannon, ultra MAGA sector here, who had been disappointed by some of Trump's more conventional picks, like, say, Treasury Secretary and Secretary of State. So this is Trump throwing them red meat because he knows he needs to keep them happy. But there are others in Trump world deeply worried about this pick, who feel like Patel is not only unqualified, but indeed dangerous. That Patel will never think twice, never hesitate in carrying out whatever Trump wants, even if it means potentially, people say, breaking the law. So there are real questions here, and we'll get into it as to whether or not Patel can be confirmed. Much like Matt Gaetz, that pick seemed in trouble. This one seems hardly a sure thing either, Joe Mika. But there are mechanisms where if he were to fire Wray, Patel could step in an interim way for 200 or so odd days. That even that short sample size, even if he can't get confirmed, would be enough to carry out some of Trump's agenda.
But Trump's agenda is an evolving decree for a good old-fashioned government dismantling. And it seems Kash Patel, he's just the avenging wizard to work that malevolent magic. By his own admission, a lot of people say he's crazy, Trump once said of Patel. According to a longtime advisor, I think he's kind of crazy, but sometimes you need a little crazy. Crazy days ahead, friends. Buckle up.